Hello. How you doing, man? I'm gonna start recording, okay?
Okay.
All right, sounds good. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. I guess I'm leaving for Indianapolis tomorrow to go play the Indiana State Fair with Orleans Atlanta Rhythm Section in Firefall, so that'll be fun.
Nice, nice. Well, how many gigs have you guys played since things reopened?
3. We were off for a year and a half. We played in North Carolina a couple weeks ago and just got back from 2 gigs in Florida, Clearwater, Florida, and then Jacksonville. And of course, Jacksonville is one of the hottest spots for COVID in the United States right now. So it's a little scary, and safety first.
Yeah. What was the scene there like with the audience and the crowd? Was it business as usual, or were they masking up?
No, business as usual. And of course, Florida has that governor who's, totally right wing, and hey, we're going to open up everything. So it was a little scary, and I had to really get on the case of one of my guys who went out kind of to the merch table and didn't have a mask on. And, one of my other guys, just had his 3rd bout with cancer and is just got done with chemo and radiation. And frankly, his immune system is very fragile. So, we got to be really careful.
Yeah, really, with a capital R, careful. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think we're good, and going to Indianapolis tomorrow. In fact, it's funny because our manager in LA told me that the Indianapolis fair people said, hey, we want to have a big meet and greet in the dressing room with all 3 bands. And he said, absolutely not, because Indiana's kind of the same thing. It's like,
what are they thinking?
What were they thinking? So, wear a mask until you get in front of the microphone.
There you go. Well, now, beyond all of the restrictions and so forth, what was it like once you got up there and were able to actually, start playing again?
Well, it was really great fun. And everything fell back into place. And the first night we played in Florida, which was gig number 2, man, we sounded like we've been doing it for years, which we have, but just not in 2020. And it was really good, and the crowds love us down there, and so it went really good. And we added Way Back When from the new album into the set, which went over great. So it's nice. It's really nice to be playing and earning money again. I got to deposit checks to Firefall. It was like, wow, we're going up for once.
Yeah, it's coming in instead of going out only.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, that's great. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Did you have a chance to do any kind of rehearsing, or what kind of preparation did you do before getting back out on the road?
Vocal rehearsal.
Yeah.
In the hotel room.
Gotcha.
And there was a couple of songs, like on Way Back When, I just made sure that everybody knew it was in the set, and hey, just relearn your part from the record.
There you go.
How's things in LA?
Well, it's pretty warm out here, and we're just trying to stay cool and not use too much energy and blow the grid out, But
my daughter, who's a scientist and is, how old is she? Like 34, 35 or something. She lives up in Portland, and they hit 116 not too long ago.
Yeah.
And it was like, Jesus.
Quite insane. Well, listen, just for the sake of those who might not have been paying attention all these years, tell us who is in the band,
okay,
and where each guy lives, and then I'll have a couple of follow-up questions about that, I'm sure.
Okay.
Okay, so take it away.
Firefall and myself are really lucky to have 3 original members in the band. which is kind of rare these days. There's a lot of classic rock bands that don't have anybody from the old days, but sign of the times. But Mark Andes is the original bass player. He's the one huge rock star in the band, having been in Spirit and then JoJo Gunn and then Firefall and then Dan Fogelberg and Joe Walsh and Hart for 15 years. Mark is great. He lives in Houston. David Muse is our sax flute keyboard player, and he's in Clearwater, Florida. He was in Marshall Tucker for about 10 years, and we stole him back, 10 years ago. Me, Jock Bartley, I live in Westminster, Colorado, halfway between Denver and Boulder, where we got together in Boulder all those years ago. And then Sandy Fick has been on drums for 30 years. He lives in Medford, Oregon area. And the new guy, Gary Jones, is the singer who sings all the Rick Roberts parts from our records. And he lives in Nashville. He's been in the band about 5 years. So when we were making this new record, Comet, it was really hard to get us into the studio, even to just sing a background vocal part.
Well, how did you do this? I mean, give me a window into the process. From what I would understand, you'd have to get together at some point to do basic tracks and then maybe pass the tapes around or pass the files around, or how did it work?
It worked like we did schedule some rehearsals when we knew we were going to do the album. And that came after we recorded Nature's Way with Mark Andes singing it. And then later Timothy B. Schmidt and John McPhee from the Doobies got involved and played on the record. Once we had that kind of done in the studio, I knew, let's make an album. It's been over 20 years. And we scheduled a few times, once in Nashville where Gary lives and once out in Denver where I live, to have a couple of days of rehearsal and screening songs and then learning them and finding out what worked and what didn't. But there was one song on the record, the last song that I wrote kind of as a doffing of my hat and respectfully to Rick Roberts' song Mexico. I wrote kind of a tongue-in-cheek, a New Mexico, kind of, different chords, but hey, very similar. And we never played that song together as a band. I cut the acoustic guitar parts and a scratch vocal and had a conga player come in and play. And I emailed it to Sandy in Oregon, and he played his drum parts. And a couple of times I'd say, well, how about being a little simpler, or think Michael Clark there? And he came up with a drum part, and then we emailed it to Mark for a bass part. And we never really played that song in the studio.
Gotcha.
Most of the basic tracks we did, but there was a couple of tunes that weren't.
So, well, let me rewind a little bit. I mean, you said 20 years since making a record. What was it that got you guys into the studio to do Nature's Way, and how, as you kind of the spark that lit the fuse, as it were?
Well, going back even a little bit further, for the last 15 or 20 years, we've been coasting on our songs and our hits from the 70s, like many of the bands that we play with nowadays. You go up and play 35 or 40 minutes and people pay to hear our big hits. And, we just, never really thought about, let's put a new record back together. Once Mark was back in the band, though, I was always thinking we should make a record while we're still young enough to make a record.
Well, we're still vertical.
Exactly. And, Mark said he wanted to come back in the band, and he wanted to really let the people know about our history, which for him was Spirit and JoJo Gunn and all that. But we have the Byrds with Michael Clark and Chris Homan's involvement in the band. And, and the whole Flying Breeder Brother thing with Rick Roberts replacing Graham Parsons, who I played with Graham and Emmylou Harris on their last tour of the Fallen Angels. So we have a lot of history, really nice, vibrant history. And, I said, well, great, let's work out Nature's Way. And you can sing it, Mark. And he went, Well, I said, no, you sing great. Come on, you can sing the lead on that. Because, almost every band that Mark's been in, and he's been in, 15 famous bands, he was never the lead singer, but he's a really good singer.
Yep.
And, so we started putting it in our set, Nature's Way, and people loved it. Of course, Firefall's crowd is, 50, 60, 70 years old. And what's interesting is there's a lot of 20 and 30-year-olds in the crowd singing along with all our songs because they were raised by parents who loved Firefall and Dan Fogelberg and the Eagles and Little River Band and know all those songs. And so once we started doing that and Mark saw that we were really getting great exposure, or not exposure, but really great standing ovations and wonderful response to Nature's Way, we started adding, So You Want to Be a Rock and Roll Star by the Byrds and a couple of those other older songs into our long headline set. And, I also then said, we should record Nature's Way. And I got a couple of songs I'd throw into the mix, but let's start with Nature's Way. And so one of the gigs we played out in Colorado, I booked studio time and we just played it in the studio and it was really sounding good. And then Mark sang it and, and he went and saw Timothy B. Schmidt play in Houston where he lives and asked him if he would be interested in, singing on Nature's Way. And Timothy pretty much freaked out because he was a huge Spirit fan when he was a teenager in Sacramento. And he kind of confided to a few of us that Mark Andes was his hero. So here we got an Eagles guy going, Mark Andes is my hero. And once Timothy was on it, I just kind of thought, okay, we need to find songs and write songs and record a record.
Yeah, well, how did you come up with the other 9? I mean, how many other tunes did you go through? You were talking about getting together at some point and sharing songs, so how did you build the rest of the record and choose these other 9 tunes?
I ended up having 4 songs on the record that I wrote, and I could have probably had a few more. Now, I'm an okay singer, but I'm not any great lead singer. So I knew I only wanted to sing 2 or 3 of them because, when you make a record, your singer has to be, primo.
Yeah.
But, and I was pushing anybody in the band who might have a song that would fit into what, the objective was to have this new record, number one, sound like some of the best of Firefall in the mid 70s with acoustic guitars and big vocals and great songs and great vocals and great instrumental stuff between my guitar solos and David's flute and sax. So I just put out the song search and, not too many of the other guys were writing in the band. And I knew also with how weird the music business has gotten in the last 10 or 15 years about songwriters don't really make any money anymore. And unless you get in a movie or a TV commercial or something, the old thing of where you get a hit on the radio and you make, tens of thousands of dollars as a songwriter just aren't there anymore. So I knew that it wasn't going to be, I want to get as many songs as I can get on the record like it used to be 10 or 15, 20 years ago with most bands. And we went outside and found a song from Gary Burr in Nashville and the late great Robin Thompson from Virginia, a song. And so we have, I don't even remember, three outside songs, I think, 3 or 4. And I wrote 4, and Sandy, our drummer, wrote 1, and Gary Jones, the singer in the band, wrote 1. So it was just kind of, it took us forever to make this record, 3.5 or 4 years, so that we had time. And we had, I had, as producer of the record, I had 3 or 4 songs. We had Nature's Way done, and then I'd go, okay, we need 4 more, and then I'd write one, or Gary would present this song "Younger" by Gary Burr in Nashville. Great song. But so it's kind of a process of not having the pressure on, and let's find really good songs.
Gotcha. Well, I'd like to do a track by track, but I just wanted to as an overarching comment, this is not a record for kids. This is an adult record. There are adult themes here, not to say sexual, but serious, existential themes about life and death and loss and grief and redemption and
Right.
carrying on and finding new love when the old love departs.
Right.
Those are not teenagers type themes.
Right. I mean, I'm sure that probably 99.8% of teenagers have never heard of Firefall anyway. So, I just knew from my experience of being in the music business for 50 years, and particularly with Firefall, and the main thing is that you need a song and then the singer to sing the song. And it doesn't really matter who plays guitar on it or who plays drums, or none of that matters. The song is everything.
Right.
And like I told you the last time we talked, Stephen, Firefall was amazingly lucky to win. Mark Andes and I and Rick Roberts got together the first time with Larry Burnett, the other songwriter that Rick knew. We had 20 or 25 of their original songs to work out the first week.
Right.
So we didn't really have a problem until maybe the fourth or fifth album about coming up with really good songs. And Rick was just great. He'd always write these commercial, "You Are the Woman" or "Just Remember I Love You" type of songs, thinking, I'm going to get this song on the radio and girls are going to call the radio to request my song. And Larry's, of course, his songs were like a purging of his soul, so it was so great to have so much material. But, nowadays is the same thing. It's the song, baby. You got to have a song.
Yep. Well, do you mind if we go through the songs track by track? I'd like to kind of get your comments about each one, and
sure.
Maybe some.
1 second, I got to respond to my son real quick.
Okay, carry on. That's always important.
Okay, so song by song. All right. You know what? Before we start this, and of course you can cut this out if you don't want to use this part, but I wanted to see what you thought of it, because I know you now have listened to our new album.
Well, that's kind of my overarching take on it. There are some songs that I like a little bit better than others, but
it's adult.
It's an adult record. I tell you, I really responded. There are certain songs that I responded to, and I'll address that as we go through them.
Okay, great. Go ahead, then.
Fair enough. Okay.
We'll start.
So here's the album that we're talking about, gang. It's Firefall's Comet. And there's the back cover.
Hey.
And it's a trifold. So there's the band and some blurbage. And then here's the back side, as they say. The other side with band photos in the middle and track listing.
Right.
And all the credits.
And you know what? Here's one that has the sticker on it that says, where is it? First new songs by Firefall in 20 plus years.
There you go. Okay. All right.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
You got all of the the product shots in there. So.
That's right.
So we carry on. So track one is Way Back When, which is obviously an homage to back in the day. So
60s music.
But see, you had mentioned earlier that live audiences were really responding to this when you kind of folded it in with the oldies, and
right.
So that was an encouraging thing. But again, it's an adult theme. It's the teenagers maybe not really able to relate to it, but that's not your target audience.
Right. My son Jamie, who's in his 40s, made the video, and I told him, you can do whatever you want to do on Way Back When video on the choruses, whatever you want to do, but on the 3 verses, which are set in 1965, 67, and 69, I told him that I want it to be a pictorial history kind of lesson for anybody who's too young to have gone through the 60s.
Yes.
And, you know, pictures of, you know, and of course you can't use any pictures of the Beatles. So we had a Beatles screaming crowd. And I found a great poster of the Rolling Stones. And, you know, and I was told by my manager, oh, you can't use the CSN logo. So we kind of glossed, you know, but it's really great. And it, you know, I wanted it to be accurate with songs in my second verse, Be From 67.
Right.
Which is like Aretha Franklin, Respect, and Van Morrison, Brown Eyed Girl, and, you know, and Good Lovin' by the Rascals. Oh my God. You know, so I really just wanted to kind of, Mark had come into the band wanting to really embrace our family tree. And obviously with us doing Randy California and Spirit's song, Nature's Way, that was like the first step. And then the second step is kind of, I wrote this song to kind of sound like the Byrds, you know?
Yes.
And Michael Clark from the Byrds and Flying Burrito Brothers was our drummer for all the 70s. And, you know, Chris Hillman produced our first demo tape and was partners with Rick Roberts and the Burrito Brothers a few years earlier. So you know, it just was kind of a historic thing. And I didn't really judge the song or really look at it about the quality of Way Back When until I was done with the lyrics. And I looked at it and I went, crap, these are good, you know, because I had my history right here. I had Aretha and, you know, and all this, and Led Zeppelin in 1969. I'm going, okay. And I think the spirit of that song is quite amazing. And I'm really proud of it.
Well, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a reference in the 1969 verse to Let It Be.
Uh-oh.
But
did I mess up?
But see, well, that was 1970, released in spring 1970.
Uh-oh.
But see, you're safe, sort of, because that album was recorded in January of 69.
Oh, right.
As Get Back, right?
Right.
When they did the rooftop concert at the end of it, right?
Right.
So, and it was in the can for a year, and Lennon gave it to Spector, and he Spectorized it, and it was released.
Right.
But that didn't come out until 1970.
Oh.
So you're kind of like on the
waffling a little bit.
Yeah, but at least, you know, now
and you know what? When I had CSN, and then I had a Space Open, and then Led Zeppelin Turned Up Loud to rhyme with Mary Was So Proud, you know, Proud Mary.
Yep.
It's funny because when I went hits of 1969, Let It Be was on that list from the internet. So I'll blame them, but thanks for pointing out.
You always got, you can never trust the internet.
That's right.
Sorry. Well, now my daughter's calling me. I'm going to have to send her a message.
Okay, do that.
Hang on one second. Hi, Miss Veronica.
Hey, Dad.
Hi, I'm doing an interview. Can I call you back in about half an hour or so?
Yeah, that's totally fine.
All right. Thank you, hon. Talk to you soon.
Of course. Bye.
Okay. Thank you. So yeah. Okay. So the other thing that I got to tell you was that was a hell of a nostalgia trip for me personally.
Wow.
Because in 65, I was 13 and a half. Okay. The summer of satisfaction. Okay.
Oh man.
The 65 was just a coming of age kind of year for me anyway. And 67, in other words, I was with you every step of the way, and then you hit the Let It Be thing. I bet, okay, but you know, other than that, it's perfect. Other than that, it's perfect, right, man. But
once I heard Led Zeppelin in 69, though,
yeah,
because I heard Led Zeppelin's first gig. I was at the first gig that they played in Denver, in the United States, in Denver. Barry Fay brought them in a month before that album came out. Nice. I was in college, and it was Vanilla Fudge Spirit with me watching Mark Andes on stage.
Yeah.
And this unknown band from England called Led Zeppelin, who once their album came out a month later, just, knocked the doors down.
Yeah,
But
basically.
you know what was interesting? So what you just told me about 1965 for me was 64.
Right.
Seeing Ed Sullivan with the Beatles on February of 1964, and then the British invasion. Anybody who went through the, whole deal, isn't the same as people that didn't go through that.
Exactly. Well, that was like before the Beatles and after the Beatles. It's like, right. I'm sorry for, I don't mean this in any kind of weird sense to anyone who has religious beliefs, but it's almost like, AD and BC,
right.
For those of us of a certain age. My sister and I watched that, in fact, with my mom and dad, February 9th, 64, and it blew me away.
Yeah.
I'd been playing drums for about a year and a half, and jazz drums and symphonic drums, and instantly became, a Ringo fan and learned all of his parts. And, so anyway, that's a whole personal story, but that song really struck many resonating chords with me. And I'm sure that's kind of why you put it there, because as you explained, it's going over pretty big with the live audiences.
Right.
But any other comments about the tune, or any interesting stories to tell about its recording?
No, but no, I really don't. And other than just once we finished it, and in fact, David Muse in the band told me, that's the best song you ever wrote, Jock. And I went, well, I don't know about that, but it's sure, you're right. It strikes a chord for anybody who's old like we are, who kind of remembers that time.
Yeah, definitely. God, it's just weird. I don't know. It's just kind of weird to be at this point and think of ourselves as old. I don't know.
Well, of course, like most guitar players, I never really grew up. So, part of my body, even though I'm getting arthritic and I've had 4, joint replacements. The most recent was a knee operation about 5 months ago or something, which sucks. Part of me thinks, feels I'm still 23 years old.
Yep.
I'm sure you're the same.
Well, yeah, and arrested development, or whatever you want to call it, but long may it rave. It's what keeps us getting up every day.
Right.
Instead of thinking that it's over. We're not done yet. Hell no.
Hell no.
All right. Speaking of that, a real fine day. Let me say, I'm, at this age, I'm almost 70. I tend to be kind of a cynical bastard sometimes. And I thought, damn, this is so sweet. It's a little too sweet for me, but a real fine day, just, I had to like let the cynicism wash away a little bit and take it more from the standpoint of a much younger person, and realize that, wow, that's a great attitude. That's a great way to wake up. It's a wonderful thing to wake up and be in a great relationship that makes you feel that way. And, with all of the crap and negativity and bombardment of nonsense that we're subjected to, I'll take the sweet. Okay.
Right. Well, that's good to hear you say that. And, I've been told by 15 or 20 fans who love the record, saying that Real Fine Day song is just so great, and it's so upbeat and positive. So that was like number 8 that came to me trying to find 10 songs. And Gary Jones from Nashville, he found that song written by Robin Thompson, who, when Robin was a teenager, he was in a band with Bruce Springsteen, and then later became a really huge rock star in Virginia, but never had a big national hit. So he never kind of broke out of Virginia. But he did write the Virginia state song, Robin Thompson with 2 B's. And he was a friend of ours back in the 70s, he'd open shows as the Robin Thompson band for Firefall when we'd played in Virginia Beach or something.
So he's family.
Yeah, so he is family. And in fact, what's interesting, Stephen, was about 2 years when we started getting ready for the rap record, I sent him an email when he was still alive. He died a couple years later. I sent him an email and I said, hey, Firefall's doing our first record in forever. Do you have any songs that you think might fit into our groove? And he sent me two songs, which I listened to, and I thought, well, these are nice, but didn't knock my socks off. And so when Gary, toward the 11th hour of finishing our new record, said, hey, listen to this song. It's by a guy named Robin Thompson. I went, Robin Thompson? Hell, let's hear this thing. And I'll tell you what, I knew from the first 20 seconds of his recorded version of his own song 10 years earlier that was going to be great for us because, we write a lot of negative songs and a lot of heartbreak and a lot of, so when you find one that is positive and the guy's just flipping out with being so happy, I thought this is perfect and up tempo, and it's a major chord. Of course, Firefall songs, a lot of our songs are D minor and B flat and, minor kind of oriented. So to get a major chord song with a really happy, positive message, I was there.
Well, Firefall's had sentimental songs all, throughout, particularly early. I mean, You Are the Woman.
Well, You Are the Woman for sure. But for instance, Goodbye, I Love You I'm not Goodbye, I Love You. Just Remember I Love You.
Yeah.
The guy's kind of either breaking up with the girl or whatever, and he's just remember I love you when she's away.
Yeah.
Strange way to tell me you love me. That's a pretty dark song, really.
Yeah, no, that's not very sentimental. I wasn't going quite there. Yeah.
So anyway, back to Real Fine Day.
Yeah.
So we were almost done. Well, we needed 2 more songs on the record, and we were nearing being done. And Mark had a hip operation, and and we used on that one song, just confidentially between you and me, Gary said he knows some guys in Nashville that these A-list players get together once a month, and for a real reasonable price will cut any song anybody wants them to cut, whether it's a demo or an album or whatever. And so we used a bunch of Nashville guys to cut the basic track of that. Because for me, I would have had to wait another 5 or 6 months to get everybody in the studio at the right time. So a number of us played on that record as an overdub, and but that was some Nashville cats who they did that take they learned the song, they talked about it, and the drummer's going, yeah, I think I'll go to halftime here, and the bass player said, I'm gonna just stop it, That was a one take song track, and it was just magical, and then when we put Gary's vocals on it and a lot of my guitars on there, it was really great. And one thing that I'm really proud of and happy about is the world famous session guitar player Brent Mason was in that session, and and a lot of the times people are just bringing a demo song and he plays all the leads. He didn't know this was going to be for an album or a band, Firefall, or with me, a guitar player. And so he was playing a lot of licks, and they were all great. Some of them got toward the end of the song a little bit too country for Firefall, but all the first half of the song until 3 licks into the solo is Brent's guitar playing, which I figured I better double and learn what he played and play unison with him to put my sound with his. So all those licks are me and Brent playing together. And then at the right point in the solo, I thought, okay, I'll take over and we'll have him be a little bit in the background. But so I got to trade licks and play with Brent Mason on that song.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of hot session guys, I want to back up one track and just for a moment, and then we're going to have to stop down and restart because we're going to hit the 40-minute limit. But on Way Back When, you had 12 String by John Jorgensen.
Yeah, man.
Oh my God. Now, how did that come about?
When we played in Los Angeles area, I forget where it was, Thousand Oaks, a real nice venue in Thousand Oaks. I knew John, not real well, but I knew him pretty well. And I invited him to come and play on our encore songs, which were I Got a Line on You by Spirit and Rock and Roll Star, and I said,
Yep.
Bring your 12 string, we'll play Rock and Roll Star and trade licks. And he went, great. Hey, I'm off. I'm not playing. This was like back in 2018 or something. So John had gotten on stage and played with us. And of course, we have all the Birds stuff and, Chris Hillman and the Desert Rose Band and John. And John's one of the best darn guitar players in the world.
Bar none. Well,
and
bar,
I mean, being able to play rock and roll and blues on one side and then turn around and play Django Reinhardt stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So anyway, when the song was obviously a Birds sounding song that I did deliberately as the writer, I'm getting kind of arthritic and my rhythm guitar playing skills are going downhill a little bit. Fortunately, my leads are one note at a time and not really being a problem. But I kind of thought 12 string, I got to call John. And he said, oh man, send it out to me. So same thing. I emailed him a pretty nearly finished track. And I said, hey, play a real kind of safe McGuinn 12 string part and then play another track of, hey, whatever you hear. And we just mixed him in, and a lot of those little lines between vocal passages are John playing that.
Yeah, yeah. It just really adds exactly that vibe to the tune,
Right.
And good call. Good call. All right, well, let's wrap part one here, and I'll send you an invite in just a couple of minutes
Okay.
for part two, okay?
You got it. Thank you, sir. Peace.